All right, folks, welcome back in. This is Yankees Unloaded. Although this isn't a podcast episode, we're going to be doing these isolated videos throughout winter meetings, and we're starting off with Corbin Burnes, who, Gary, you and I both believe is a perfect fit for the New York Yankees following the departure of Juan Soto. But even if he didn't leave, he was a perfect fit for the Yankees. Before we dive into that, just be sure to hit the like button if you enjoy this video at any point, and be sure to hit that subscribe button. Gary, let's get started. Right now, the Yankees have 7 starting pitchers in their organization currently. Garrett Cole, Luis Gil, Carlos Rodon, Clark Schmidt, Nestor Cortez, Cody Poteet, and Marcus Stroman. Let's start off by saying this. You and I both have talked about it. Poteet is not a starter in that 5. He's a really good, reliable, long reliever and a spot starter, right? Then you have Stroman, who we watched give up 13 hits. We're pretty much out on Stroman as you could be. So Stroman with an $18 million number there on the books, I would expect him to be traded. In addition to that, Nestor Cortez, who I love and pitched very well at the end of last year. You think he's going to be traded? I don't know if he will, because he did show a lot more value than Stroman out of the bullpen. But that's where we stand right now. The rotation is as followed: Cole, Gil, Rodon, and Schmidt, just like we saw in the postseason. Gary, what are your thoughts on the rotation currently?
So first and foremost, when I look at Corbin Burnes, I think reliable. This is part of the reason why I think on this podcast we've been clamoring for a player that you can just throw the ball and get out of the way. This is something that the Yankees have needed. I thought Luis Gil was spectacular this year, but we heard question marks even after about week 3 or 4. What's this pitcher going to look like after he's thrown 150 innings? Are the Yankees going to essentially rein him back? What's Carlos Rodon going to look like in big games? We saw he was spectacular in some and then just lay an egg in others. But one thing's for certain about Corbin Burnes is that you can essentially, regardless of the team he signs with, and hopefully it's the Yankees, is that you sort of know what his numbers are going to look like. You look at the back of his baseball card, all the numbers look pretty similar. There aren't really any outlier seasons. You see 2.43 ERA, 2.94 ERA, 3.39, 2.92. Those are consecutively. The year prior, 2.11. And I know you brought this up before we hit the live button. How many games is he starting? Is he available? Well, the innings tell the story, but look at his games pitched: 32, 32, 33, 28, reliable. A guy who's thrown up. If you look at his stats, he almost throws 200 innings every year. That is something that you can say is valuable for a team that's looking to find a player. If we invest in you, are you a one-stop solution? Or do I need to get you and a couple other guys to make up for potentially what we're losing or what we need? And to be honest with you, there's a reason plenty of teams, the New York Mets, we've got reports that they're still after this player. Rightfully so. Everyone should want Corbin Burnes, and that includes the New York Yankees. Just because we lost Juan Soto doesn't mean you pack your bags and quit. There are some great players to be had out there, and obviously we have some other free agents or players via trade that we'd be interested in, but Corbin Burnes, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to free agents, it won't cost you any prospects. You have the flexibility to go make trades if need be. This is a guy that can be relied on.
You absolutely can. So I think you would agree they really are just one starter away from being pretty locked in with that rotation. Clark Schmidt's his aggressive development is what I would say. He has gone from good to potentially great. What seems like overnight. I mean, we saw him probably one of the more consistent pitchers on this team, and Luis Gil, right? But at the same time, and I understand why people are mentioning going out and getting another pitcher, maybe on top of Burnes, Luis Gil. His injury is a concern, and they were trying to keep him on an innings limit last year, and they just got to the point where they're like, you know what? I don't know if we can do it. He's just too good. Well, he got hurt. And I think his best is still yet in front of him. And I think he already looks like an absolute stud. But that is a concern. I mean, this is a guy that, took a while to come back. They stuck around. They had plenty of offers that included him. They refused to trade him. They really believed in what they saw in him. And now they're reaping the benefits there, but still the injuries are a little bit of a concern. Same thing with Rodon. Garrett Cole coming off of last year had it. So having kind of, and you mentioned this off air when we were talking about the Dodgers going to a 6-man rotation, you had said basically they're doing that knowing that Glasnow is injury prone. And so having that extra guy doesn't hurt. It really doesn't. When you have the money and you can afford it, it doesn't hurt. Now, this isn't us saying go out and get Corbin Burnes and Max Fried. I don't think either of us want Max Fried because he can't pitch in the postseason, but that's neither here nor there. This isn't us saying that, but I do think what it could be and what would be beneficial for the Yankees is to get Burnes and then you hold on to Nestor Cortez and you have that sixth guy who already showed the flexibility to pitch out of the bullpen and give you that kind of double-barreled action we saw. So that's where I stand on the rotation. As far as Burnes, Gary, he's 30 years old as of October 22nd, so a young 30. I know people get all upset because they're used to seeing NFL and NBA free agency where these guys get paid and they're 25 and they're 24. Baseball's not like that. So unfortunately, your help in free agency is going to come from probably somebody. That's why Juan Soto got so much. It's very rare to see a 26-year-old have that much flexibility and be open like that. But normally it's a 28-year-old. 30-year-olds, that happens. When you have 3 years of arbitration and you can't be a free agent for 7 years, this is what happens. But Burnes is the best free agent remaining after the Juan Soto deal. And he is 60-36 in his career with a 3.19 ERA, a 1.06 WHIP. He doesn't even have 1,000 innings on his docket. He still has over 1,050 strikeouts. He has an ERA title, 4-time All-Star, if that even mattered. All-Stars don't matter. And the Cy Young. So pretty damn good. Yeah. The limited postseason work could concern people, but this is what I would say, Gary. He is 1-2 with a 2.33 ERA, 27 innings pitched, 25 strikeouts, and a .85 WHIP. It's a small sample size, but understand this. The one win was on the Brewers because the Orioles don't win playoff games. So he is actually shown, albeit in a small sample size, the high leverage situation isn't really getting to him. So
you can't point to anything that he's failing at. And by the way, when you bring up age, and there are going to be people who say, well, just because we lost out on Soto doesn't mean we should just throw money at the next solution. Well, I will tell you this, when you're talking about age, because there are a lot of people that are concerned about age, about all these free agents. Well, let me actually list off the free agents, okay? Because they're in order here. Roki Sasaki. Roki Sasaki is a player that you don't get to throw money at. This is international money. He's going to get to choose where he wants to play. I think in large part, I think it's the Padres and the Dodgers that mostly are expected to sign the player. And obviously, Roki Sasaki is not coming to New York just by choice. If it's not about money, the Yankees don't have anything to point to right now. They haven't built a team. They have to build the team first, and Roki's probably going to sign before that gets done. Corbin Burnes, 30. Max Fried, 31. Manaea, 33. There are a lot of people in on Manaea. The Mets included. 33 years old. Jack Flaherty, 29. Walker Buehler, 30. The Yankees were in on him in conversation, right? So you're talking about a list of players that are either in their early 30s, at best, they're 29. So 30 is about as best it's going to get, and there's a reason it's as expensive as it's going to be. So, Jake, I really want to segue that to the numbers that we're expecting, because I'm sure people are saying, well, how much money are we talking? When we were looking at the projections earlier this year, we saw, I believe it was 6 or 7 years, roughly 180 million, really grouping him in that Rodon, that grouping of, yeah, you're not that guy, but you're that tier down below. I don't see that out of Corbin Burnes. I think Corbin Burnes is an ace for really almost any organization he joins. So as far as I'm concerned, given the fact he's 30, I'm looking at a player who's probably going to get a contract bare minimum in the mid-30s annually and can creep all the way into the low 40s. As a 30-year-old, you have to imagine he's looking for a 7 or 8 year deal. You do the math, you're talking about a player who's signing for 8 years, $320 million. And I know your projection was that he would get that extra year, that eighth year, that pushes him to 360 million. That's the number that we gave Garrett Cole. It's a lot of money. So what are your thoughts?
I'm in a total agreement with you. Our market value, if Yankees Unloaded was to create a market value, which we just aren't going to publish it on a website. 8 to 9 years, 320 to 360 million. I would go up to 400 million to secure him. I would, maybe even higher, because you are going to have Steve Cohen in this race, and he's got unlimited amounts of money. So the Mets are going to be involved. The Red Sox are going to be involved. Keep in mind, they allocated $700 million for Juan Soto. And then you have the Giants involved, who are already, just chomping at the bit. I mean, they tried to get Aaron Judge. That didn't work out. They went out and they got Adames, who a lot of us think may have been, a little bit overpaid, but still, they've already shown good player. They've already shown the desire to go out and just throw money. And so that's been the Giants. And, I think that they are a player in this one, and maybe even the favorite based on, what a lot of people are saying. I want to point out real quick, ESPN has a pitcher rating, which I found really interesting. It basically ranks all the pitchers in the league. So all of the relievers included, Emmanuel Clase is in there and everything. For 2024, Corbin Burnes was 7th, only behind Skubal, Wheeler, Sale, Lugo, Clase, and Skeens. I would go as far as to say Corbin Burnes is a guaranteed top 5 pitcher, and you could argue he's top 3. And that's really what the Yankees are getting if they get this player. Now, to wrap up this isolated video, because I think this is the right approach. There's going to be a lot of guys. We want to talk about them, but we want to make sure that you guys can just watch the video and see for yourself instead of having to watch a full live stream and having to go back and rewind and all that. But we will be doing live streams and what have you. Hal Steinbrenner, with that said, Hal Steinbrenner has now offered over $1 billion to Yamamoto, Soto, and Snell. And guess what? Unless there was a Mandela effect and you're in another timeline, none of those three joined the Yankees.
People seem to think that some of that money was spent, right? Offering, you can go into Lamborghini all you want. $400,000 cars, you can offer $325. It's a lot of money. But they're going to tell you no at the door. And you may walk out and say, well, I offered $325,000 for a car. It's a lot of money. You're right. It is. But the issue is that you didn't have a high enough bid to actually get to spend the money. And Jake, you've really hammered this of where are we spending this money and when? That's the real question. And there are going to be some people who think, well, Corbin Burnes is not worth throwing $350 million at. Well, you don't get what you're worth. You get what you can negotiate. And right now, the position that the Yankees are in is that they need to find a way to get into a win-now situation without punting an age 32 season of Aaron Judge. Because now there's no longer this two-headed attack. It is Aaron Judge. So you need to find a way. And Corbin Burnes is a nice little fit anywhere. I would love to see him in pinstripes.
I absolutely agree. And I think to wrap this up, just to not show our hand entirely, but I think it's no shock if you've watched our podcast, we really want Kyle Tucker in a Yankee uniform. And I think what this does is, as you alluded to early on, but didn't mention him, what this does is it keeps the Yankees farm system intact. You're only going to give up a draft pick. And by the way, the compensatory picks are an absolute joke, almost as much of a joke as this commissioner of baseball. The fact is, the Yankees are going to get a 4th-round pick for losing Juan Soto. The compensatory picks do not matter. No one cares. So, by all means, give up the compensatory pick, grab a pitcher in Corbin Burnes, turn your rotation into Garrett Cole, Corbin Burnes, Luis Seal, Carlos Rodon, and Clark Schmidt. And oh, by the way, if you do that, you can go and let someone else get Crochet. And then now you have those assets to go and trade for Kyle Tucker. I think it makes them a better team. I think this is the move. If you want, Yankees fans right now, they're down in the dumps. If Hal wants to fix this thing, it starts with Corbin Burnes. And that's all I can really say.
Yeah, and no one's saying on this episode that the Astros are going to trade us that player. But at the very least, when you're talking about a rental, any rental, regardless of how talented this player is, if they don't expect to re-sign the player, that value tends to diminish. And the Yankees could potentially use that opportunity to get a lot better and put themselves back into consideration as a contender, because as of now, they are not.
This is true. But we appreciate you guys. Be sure to like the video, subscribe, and we'll see you guys soon.
And like this video.